we're backing everything up.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. So we are now streaming live on Facebook. So good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. I have the honor this Wednesday to have Ron Cox, intuitive medium, and much more effectively. And we are going to find out more about Ron. Ron, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I just want to say that we have known each other for quite some time now, and we've been meaning to get together at some point, but then time goes, isn't it? And but it's always very beautiful to catch up and get talking, basically. Sorry about that. Just want to say that just for a moment. So apologies for that. I've had to connect to more systems. So here I am. So I was saying, Ron, wow, what a journey it's been in your experience and in your spiritual life, in your actual life. And, you know, in this, as usual, you know, the School of Conscious Evolution wants to actually bring to the light how it's not been at all a coincidence how we have had, how we are doing what we're doing tonight, right? And that through trauma or huge events in our life, mostly where we are being called to question, okay, our connection to spirit and who we really are, to actually have a turning point in our life. And I know for a fact that yours has been your NDE, right?
Yes,
Can you tell us more about it, how your experience went? Because I'm sure a lot of people may be able to relate to that as well.
Well, I've always had this unusual connection that I could never explain when I was a young child. And of course, your mother knows about it. You know, your mother sees everything. She knows everything that goes on. But, you know, of course, with my gifts, I was made to be afraid of it when I was a young child. So I tried to stay away from it. I didn't want dreams or anything. I didn't understand what it was about. And it progressed throughout my entire life. It kept happening over and over and over and over again. And a little over 7 years ago, boom, I died on the table and crossed over into the other world. And boy, was my entire reality just shaken apart. Just everything that society teaches you to believe, it's, you know, it's, sorry, my brain has been in my books all morning long. And
we're going to talk about that in a minute as well, isn't it? Because you are doing, you are studying at the University of Sedona, quantum physics and metaphysics, in fact. And that is something that we're certainly going to be talking about. I just wanted to say hi, meanwhile, to the people that are following us. Obviously, Stephen, thank you for joining us on Zoom. We have Nigel Walton, good evening, Jennifer Partridge, Lynn Wynn, Bev Newton, Monica Gurr. So yeah, thank you. And you know, like as we go along, more people will be joining us. So yeah, about I suppose that you signing up to the University of Sedona is actually a moment in your life of evolution from where you've come, all the way from your NDE. And I know you've been also running a spirit box, in your local area in Florida. And you are a spiritual minister, a medium, and you have, and you are an amazing medium. And I know because I don't know if you remember, I contacted you in the past, also regarding a friend that was trying to locate a friend of hers, cemetery in Scotland. And she had no idea. She came to me asking for help. And I said, I know the person that can help you with that, actually. And you gave the exact location, because you are known for finding, the most amazing things through the help of spirit, the needle in the haystack. And that's what you've done for us. And we were able to actually find the exact rural location that you gave us by the details, and she was able to pursue that. So thank you again, because that was amazing.
You've just given me goosebumps all over again, remembering that story. That was incredible. And spirit is absolutely amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it is true, that we all come with our own skills and all of that, but I knew you were the person to come to for that sort of thing, right? Because I know you've done that for other people, even in your neighborhood in the past, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, regarding finding a cat, even.
Imagine how healing it is to a person who lost a pet.
Yeah.
Now, I was able to help them find their pet, but imagine how much more healing it is when a person is able to locate the person that they need closure with.
Yeah, yeah.
How healing and cathartic was it for your friend to be able to go and get that closure that she couldn't get for such a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
It just.
Yeah, when you ask for evidence from spirit, we can all go all up, it's amazing when you have the connection that you share in particular. But I just wanted to say, coming back to the difference between, obviously some people come, as you say, with some social preconceptions, religious education, and all of that. And as you say, but nothing beats a mother that knows us, right, from the inside out, and they can recognize our skills and what we bring in our life. I just wanted to say, regarding your NDE, so you basically experienced your soul leaving your body. And what happened then?
Well, I was in this place that was what I now know as the mother energy. A lot of people call it the void, but really it's a nurturing energy that is full of love and warmth and acceptance. And it's there to help calm down the spirit or soul of the person who just transitioned and doesn't realize what took place. Okay, and it helps calm them down and get them ready for the next part of the journey. And there, my mother came to me. I had several people standing near me. Of course, I didn't recognize them all. I mean, these are family members that have passed over way before I ever came into this world. Mm-hmm. But the most definite part was my mother. And she said, "You have so much work to do."
Right.
I had no idea this was the work that I was meant to do.
Right. Right, absolutely amazing, absolutely amazing. And so, this is, I suppose, the journey to find out who we really are. It's having an earthly experience is actually a unique experience in finding again who we really are, because it is said that we do forget when we incarnate in spirit. We incarnate in our body from spirit, and when we are born, we actually forget who we really are. I know that sometimes I've heard also that it's a lot to do with, for instance, some people that suffer with addictions. It's a way, they say that it's a way for God to keep them close to themselves, to Him, so that they discover the hardest way possible who they really are, and they discover in the hard way, on a hard path of life, what really means, to be connected to spirit, who our higher power is. And this is certainly what the spiritual awakening is about. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it helped me realize there's two parts of self. And that's what we don't realize. There's two parts to us. There's this temporary meat bag that we call a human being.
Yeah.
And there's the soul, or the true self. The true self is what crossed over. The meat bag was left behind.
Sure.
This temporary self was formed off of all of society's beliefs. So society's belief is that when we die, we die. Well, that's in the temporary self. That's not in the true self. Yeah. True self knows what to do.
Yeah, right.
Temporary self gets confused. Okay.
And yeah, absolutely. And, we want to work with the shadow selves, because by working out, all of our ego and our earthly side is the way to experience our spirituality. Isn't that right?
Well, yes, we have to look. We say our shadow selves. Well, it really is our shadow self. Is it more about the pain we've experienced in this life that we holding on to the baggage of that pain like a pacifier when we were 3 years old?
Yeah.
The shadow work is releasing all that pain and letting it go and freeing the soul and realizing that you are God, and all of this is temporary and nothing is meant to hold you back. It's meant to experience it, learn from it, and move forward and grow.
Absolutely. And I find that the next level up is to actually trust our gut feeling, isn't it? Because this is what it is all about, to manage to work through, that pain, or to overcome, or even accept.
Well, let's put the name on that gut feeling that deserves to be there.
Yeah.
That gut feeling is God.
Yes.
It's not intuition, it's God.
True.
That gut feeling is God telling you to turn left instead of turn right.
Mm-hmm.
Recognize who's doing it. Be thankful for it so it comes in more often and more often and more often. The more you thank God for the little things in your life, the more gratitude that builds up, the more spiritual awareness builds up, and the more you're able to manifest into your life those things that you need to heal that shadow self.
Yeah, and that is so true, because manifestation comes the moment when we raise our vibrations, above the thickness, the density of the 3D, which is maybe the ego side of our lives, and just clearing the path, we actually are able and are supposed to accept more what God has in mind for us, and for us to honor our path. And when we come to that realization is when actually we can start manifesting what we need to move forward and to honor the path. And it is true that the more we align to Spirit, to God, the more we can manifest what we need. What do you think of that?
You're right. It is. Manifesting does not start with us. It does, but it starts as a minor thought. That's the nucleus for the manifestation to begin. It's small as a mustard seed. And when you put yourself, your drive, your thought, your will, your wants and needs into this, well, guess what? The more you work towards that, the more it's going to come into your life as a manifestation. Now, say, we as humans always get in our own way. Okay? Because we tell ourselves what we want, and then we tell ourselves we don't deserve it. I want a brand new car. Well, I don't know if I can afford the payments. I would like to live here, but I don't know people. Do you see how we constantly put the negative in when we're trying to positively manifest into our lives? When we put out that thought and we give it to God, we have to give it to God. It is not ours to control. Everything that needs to come together and for that thought energy or that thought vibration to form will come together as long as we get out of the way.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I understand that during your experience and the evolution of your own consciousness, you have discovered the meaning of past lives as well. Yes,
I very, very much so. Before my near-death experience, it never had anything like it. I had my mediumship abilities, but they came through dreams.
Right.
And unfortunately, I knew when someone was going to pass over. That could be a curse or a blessing. The blessing is, that I helped someone transition to the other side, that they came to me trusting, knowing that I would help them transition to the other side. The curse is knowing that they're going to pass away before everybody else does, and so go ahead, ask me another question. My train of thought just went. My vibration is so high right now, I'm sweating like a pig. I'm having trouble.
So let's
thought.
No, we touched base one moment on the past life, but what I wanted to ask you actually, because I've asked you this question on the back of our previous conversation regarding your experience so far at the learning about quantum physics and metaphysics in general. What can you share with us? What has been your experience so far about joining? Because this is something you've been wanting to do for a long time, learning about quantum and how that impacts actually on our day-to-day life.
Well, quantum physics is a very, very deep, deep level of understanding. And once I don't truly have the full grasp of all of it yet. But what's amazing is one part of it is that our life is like a spiral. Okay. And even if we look at all the Fibonacci sequences and stuff, there's very much a sequential pattern to them all. And our life in quantum physics world is like a spiral. Even though we've experienced something at a younger age, don't think we're never not going to experience that same thing again, because it's always going to come back around, because it's about the evolution of the thought pattern. It's not the evolution of the feeling that the experience had at the time. It's the evolution of the thought pattern and being able to see it from a different point of view. And in quantum physics, we're always looking at things in a different point of view. In science, we're always looking at things in a different point of view. Science is never 100% correct. This is the same thing. It's always about a different point of view, because once you open up one door and understand that door, guess what? There's 5 other doors waiting there for you to open and understand, because it's always on the evolutionary path.
Right.
And that's what our soul is, even through multiple incarnation. And like we were saying earlier, I had a past life experience. I knew my name was Father William Halley in a past life. How I knew that was through a dream. But the part that was most profound was being able to stand in the exact same place that Father William Halley stood, with his name right there before me, who was Archbishop of Canterbury, who told Queen Victoria that she rose to the throne. That was my past life.
Yes. Shocking.
Shocking. That's so profound. It's hard to comprehend.
Yes. Yeah.
It's hard to understand, but in the great aspects of it all, I believe that during my near-death experience, a part of our lives is like an imprint is left on the other side. So when we die, they all join up together again.
Yes.
So
Yes, absolutely. Yes, of course.
And, you know, I've had a couple other experiences. One that dealt with the American Revolutionary War. I knew exactly my name, Lieutenant Colonel John Blackwell. I knew exactly where I died. I was in the Battle of Antietam. Boom, there it is. Right. You know, when these things come forward and you're getting full names like this, immediately go and research them. See if these people were real. You know, was that ego or was that spirit? You know, because if it's a real person, they're going to show up in history. At least they have for me every time I've looked.
Yes, yes, definitely, definitely. And yeah, this is like quite a new concept of us leaving imprints in the past, isn't it, that determine the new lives.
Right.
Do you think that is what we would call karma? Or it's something else that you're talking about? Because whether the imprints is the result of an action or it's the energy that we produce throughout our actions, whether they vibrate more or less, if they vibrate very low, it's probably more karma, if you see what I mean. So that will manifest again into the new life until we clear.
Well, this is where spiritualism and metaphysics differentiate.
Go on.
Karma. Okay. Spiritualism believes that you can carry karma in from your past life. Okay. Metaphysics does not believe that. Okay. Because karma is created out of cause and effect. And you can't create cause and effect as a spirit. You can only create cause and effect in this temporary life that we have here as an incarnated human being.
Okay.
Okay. Your actions against one another creates the effect that's going to come basically back to you, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So if we go through, according to spiritual teachings, we go through and we have a life review. Well, they also say we go through the valley of forgetfulness on the way back. Well, if that's the case, how can you carry karma through on the way back?
True.
Okay. Now, it's not, who's going to be 100% accurate on this? You know, it's just two different ways of thinking. That's all it is. It's like the Christian faith believes in sin, where the metaphysical faith does not believe in sin. That this is all, we're here for the experience of life. And if we're here for the experience of life to accept unconditional love, then there can be nothing but love. So if there's nothing but love, there is no sin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
There can't be, because unconditional love does not come unconditional love, comma, but, comma, except if you're this.
Right. No, because it wouldn't be unconditional.
It wouldn't be unconditional now, would it?
Yeah, no.
Okay? So I believe that karma is created here. Like when we're going about our days, and yes, sometimes we forget, and we forget to watch ourselves, and somebody says something to us and we turn around and bite their head off. Okay. So, and then we're driving down the road and all of a sudden we turn right and get hit by a car. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is that karma? Is that the evidence of the law of cause and effect?
Right.
So it's, if I look at karma, I go by one basic philosophy, and that is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And that way you're not creating any, going against any major laws of the universe. And that way you're not, if I'm wrong on karma, you're not bringing it through from a past life. You know, just treat others as you want to be treated.
Yes, yes.
Everybody has spiritual knowledge, and nobody's spiritual knowledge is better than one person's or the other. We're all sharing information and ideas back and forth.
Yeah. But this is also true that will be the case, and we will be thinking about that only when we will be shaken up by life in some form or shape, and then we will need to question, right? And so how do we understand soul versus what we are then?
Versus where we are, okay, versus the soul. Well, the soul is constantly connected with the universal God mind.
Right.
Okay, where we are now, this is the temporary self. This is not connected. This is connected to the soul, which the soul is connected to the universal God mind.
Right.
Okay, this part is formed by society, our mothers, our brothers, our fathers,
right.
Our aunts, our uncles, our friends. Okay, where true self knows God's true self. And it's up to us in this temporary self to determine which direction we want to go.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this direction we go may lead us to this path. Well, did you make that decision by the ego? Or did you make that decision through the universal God mind?
Mm.
Okay. If you did it through the universal God mind, you're going to be on the right path. But if you did it through the ego, then it may be temporary. It may not be spirit influenced, and it may not last, and you may fail.
And how does Kundalini comes in all of this then?
Kundalini, I haven't studied Kundalini in depth yet.
Okay.
So that's a different energy for me that circulates like the serpentine up the spine. But I haven't studied that in depth, so I don't know too much about it yet.
So just to speculate, would you think that that is the divine subconscious mind that becomes activated in our body? So to make a connection and a reopening, in fact, that connection between the soul and the body.
So you need Kundalini to be able to connect?
Because like it is said that in our evolution, our bodies are turning crystalline. Okay, so which means that the transformation, which is subsequent to us awakening again to reconnecting to who we really are, being our soul, right, residing within us. The Kundalini enables our body actually to become more divine, if I may say, to become, to raise its vibrations into words in order to carry out the work as a soul on earth. So there is like this, transformation going on at the moment, it seems, which people are experiencing in a number of physical ailments.
So anything that, basically what you're saying, anything that raises the vibration within the body is the Kundalini.
No, it's a combination of us working through our what we call the shadow work earlier on, and it's an activation within our body, okay, to recognize that the body is also the carrier for the soul. So in order, when we have, my belief is that when we have this combination, this reactivation of connection between the soul and the body, then also the body gets an awakening in its own right. Does it make sense? And this is what I feel, what Spirit has been, working with me. And this is what my belief is, basically. But it doesn't mean, could mean everything and nothing really, but this is what I believe.
Right. Let me, that one I can't answer. I don't understand.
Of course not.
Yeah. So, but if I look at that on a metaphysical level, why do you need something else to connect you with God when you're already connected to God? Because the soul is connected to the body, because the body cannot be born without a soul.
So what do you think the scope of the Kundalini is? Because it is being, universally recognized for being a force energy.
I see it in yoga. I see Kundalini in yoga, and I'm starting to see it in other things yet.
Yeah.
I don't.
From the Far East, beliefs and.
Yeah, I'd rather not go into that because I'm not very versed on it yet. So I don't want to come out as being sort of incompetent, because I am sort of incompetent to the fact of what it is right at the moment.
We have someone on Facebook that is asking, I have been wondering about Kundalini lately in a way that isn't that funny, and what is the role? So what, so you actually don't feel like you can give an opinion because you haven't looked into it through your studies?
No.
Okay, that's fine. So distraction versus spiritual journey. Are we going back to talk about this connection and awakening through major events in our lives then?
Distractions versus spiritual journey, yes. Well, let's look at a distraction. You're on your spiritual journey and all of a sudden you get sidetracked. Okay? Don't we all get sidetracked every now and then?
Oh, yeah.
What goes on in life? Yeah. And then you get frustrated with yourself with the distraction. Why did I let that happen? Why did I let this get me off course? Correct? Don't you question yourself on that?
Yeah.
Well, that distraction was meant to be there.
Yeah.
Because that was a lesson that you needed to further your spiritual growth. In other words, you may have needed a little break because you studied so much, and now all of a sudden a distraction comes up, and in this distraction you're absorbing what you've already learned, and now you're applying it in the distraction, so now you're able to go even further. Distractions are meant to be there to help aid you on your spiritual path, not take you off of it.
Yes, absolutely, which is what I feel I was trying to, what I mentioned towards the beginning of our chat tonight, about, rediscovering who we really are by either having this so-called tower moment in our lives, and I feel this is majorly and mainly brought on by either trauma or by losing grief, which is by losing someone in our lives. We are being brought down to literally to our knees, emotionally, spiritually. We are pushed onto questioning everything and how the universe works, right?
Right, we're always questioning.
Yes, but I feel that in the later decade, really, there has been a major awakening in the humanity, though.
Yes, there is.
Something that you and I might give for granted, yes, of course. A lot of day-to-day people that are not, normally in spirituality, or even don't believe at all in it. It does take that sort of distraction to destroy something, to bring them down to a level point where it's tabula rasa, as Latins would say, like starting from the scratch, and just work through their pain, emotional more than anything. So the emotionality side has a more than psychological, I would say, has probably a major impact on the reconnection to our own soul.
Right. And most people come to spiritualism, metaphysics, a different way of thinking through trauma. Most people don't come to this on their own. It takes a breakup, a family death, their own something. You're right. It takes something. But we've seen this movement for quite some time. We've been asking for this movement, and now it's finally here, and we're finally able to recognize it. But if we go into the past and look in hindsight, this movement has, even though it was very big in the 50s and 60s and 40s, and it died down a little bit. Now it's starting to pick back up again here in the United States. Okay, we saw this transition to a higher power, I would say, when AIDS first came about. You could see people turning away from the organized religion and moving more into spiritual stuff.
Right, that is right. Yes.
And you see it with every war that goes on. People move gradually more towards spiritualism. There's got to be something better than what we're being told. And it's happening more and more and more. And now I know people, if you've heard me before in the past, I used to manage several bars, so I know a lot of people. I just see them, I'm thinking, wow, you're talking like this? Wow, what happened to you? Because, wow, you've really changed.
Yeah.
And just like we're having these movements over here where 4, 5, 1,000 people are showing up to be baptized in one sitting.
Wow.
I mean, there's a major change going on. We're finally realizing that man does nothing but lie to us.
No.
Government is not going to tell you the truth. The only way you're going to find the truth is through what you feel.
It is true that a lot of people are awakening to the reality, which is, the governments are like more and more, not caring about the population. It's all about politics and money and power. And before there was like more of an intersection within the society, but now there is like almost a split in half, where the society, the bourgeoisie, as they used to call it, in the past century, is almost disappearing. Like what is the middle class is almost disappearing. You either belong to the top section or you really struggle, right? And because this happens to be the second part of the highest majority, it feels to me that this has this has caused, a major crisis and awakening in the society. I have Bev Newton saying Kyle Gray does Kundalini yoga and is online if you want to find out about. Okay, right, sorry. I just thought she was more talking about what we were discussing right now. Thank you, Bev, for your contribution.
Just to touch on that, just to touch on what you were saying, here in the United States, church attendance is down to only 40%. But when you ask people, do they believe in a higher power, 80% say yes.
Interesting.
It's very interesting because they are moving away from the organized religion. And it's about, spiritualism. There is a higher power, getting in touch with the true self. Even, go ahead.
Yes, no, absolutely. And this is like something that is happening more and more in our society, isn't it? And there is a reawakening to, a lot of more, when I walk in these new age shops, for instance, I have Madison Sanchez is saying, yes, I moved away 2 years ago from Protestant religion. Okay, yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, I myself am a Catholic girl.
I was raised Southern Baptist.
Yeah. But, like at the end of the day, what I'm doing today, mediumship and everything else, is actually not something that it's condoned definitely by my church.
Actually, that changed.
Yeah. Well, they are undergoing a lot of changes, aren't they? Yes. I mean, all religions, really, because a lot of people, as you said, are moving away from religion because there is too much of a diktat and too much limitations, and they do not take into account the difficulties that people are facing, and they are not providing that hope and emotional support that people so much need these days. And this is why so many people, resort to, attending more, I hope, spiritualist churches. I know that they said during lockdown and all of that, there seemed like there were lesser people attending, but I find that there are far more younger people interested also. I was saying earlier on, when I go to new age shops, I find an awful lot of young people, going there and, being interested. I was, for a short while, I was doing readings from one of these shops. And it turned out that a lot of people, they strongly, like even, young men, normally you would think spirituality, it's something that probably is more for girls, but actually no, it's actually for boys as well and for men. When you go to spiritualist churches, you see a very large number of women and a lesser number of men. But in shops with the new generation, you actually see an awful lot of young men that are very interested. And what really I felt really pleased with was that they are very tuned. All of the young people are very tuned into the new energies around us, whereas in my days, we wouldn't know what that was. We would just do as we were told somehow. So we didn't really have a choice. But I find, like myself working in secondary schools, I think that not just in the UK, but also back in Italy, I have friends that are teachers. And it seems like that these young generations are bringing down a system with the way they behave in schools, because it's becoming unmanageable. And the teachers are struggling with the new generation because they want to bring down a system, and they don't do it even on purpose. They don't know why they're doing it, but they're doing it. We wouldn't have dreamt to rebel to our teachers in our days, And it seems like that young people want to bring down a system which no longer applies. And I think that this awakening in older people is actually heading exactly in the same direction against the institutions. Okay.
I can see that. I can see that.
I mean, I remember that as we were talking last time, we touched base on societal issues creating separation when we get 8 to 9 years old.
I just lost you.
Oops. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I can't see you.
Oh, okay. It might be internet. I don't know if anybody... you're right, Stephen, thank you. Stephen says it's okay from my side. I mean, I can see you okay, and I can hear you okay, so maybe it's your internet, perhaps. So, when we were speaking, as you try to reconnect, we were talking about society. Oh, thank you, Anya. She's saying that she also sees you well. And I was saying that we need, so therefore we have, like when we are children, we are still opened with our soul to experience and to feel energy in a different ways. So much so that it's typical that a lot of us and colleagues of ours do experience hearing and seeing spirit since very young age. And, as we grow towards the age of 8 or 9, we tend to... Oh, wonderful. We tend to suppress that, isn't it? So when we are young, we have this innate way to connect to spirit. And if we're lucky enough to have parents to support that, then all good. I'm following at the moment some mothers who are Reiki masters themselves, they are spiritualists, whose young children, and I'm talking about 6, 7, 8-year-old, who claim to be avian creatures, which means they are creatures, they are originally from other, and I know that, it sounds like a bit out there for some people, my sound, but this shows that these patterns, of very young children that have nurturing mothers that accept, the spirituality of children, coming up to their sentient beings, and they are able to actually express what they feel. It's going on energetically. Okay, whereas a lot of times in the past, children were not allowed to actually express or seeing or talking to spirit. They would be told to stop the nonsense, so to say. So society does influence.
Right, their imaginary friend.
Yeah, quite, yes. So society... Yeah, so society played a huge part into the development of spiritualism even, isn't it?
Yeah.
Until the more modern days where there is actually an opening. There is more of a natural opening, dare I say. And we're trying to make sense of that, right?
Right. I believe children are born naturally intuitive. It's us on society, like you're saying, that sort of puts our thoughts and feelings on it and sort of squashes it. If we just let the child progress on their own, I think they would carry over the spiritual gifts throughout their entire life. Why does that have to disappear when they're like 6 years old?
Yes, yes.
Because what we do.
And what we do. So how do you, when it comes to practicing, you know, like connection to spirit, okay, we were talking about, you quoted Matthew 22:4, the body shall be filled with light. And
Yeah, Matthew 4:22.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Matthew 4:22.
Right.
Therefore, if thine eyes be single, thy body shall be filled with light.
There you go.
Okay. And God is really telling us how to connect. Christ is telling us how to connect with God. Okay. But you have to look at the meaning behind those words. Therefore, if thine eyes be single, well, we have two eyes. So the only way our eyes can be single is that we close them and we're visualizing through our third eye.
Right.
Well, what do we see when we're in meditation?
Mm-hmm.
Get all these beautiful colors dancing around in front of us, don't we?
Yeah.
Well, those colors are made of light. Where does the light come from? That light comes from source. What is light? But light is energy. That's our daily nourishment.
Absolutely.
We
Absolutely.
go in. It's also the same thing as when the Jews were wandering the desert and manna was released from the heavens to feed them. What was manna? Loaves of bread weren't falling from the sky. God's source energy was falling from the sky. Well, that's what that is, that light, that energy. Mm-hmm. That's God coming to us. And communication is the way that God knows how to communicate with us through our higher God mind into our spirit, our soul, and into our subconscious and conscious. That's how God communicates. So Christ is telling us that we don't need a church. We don't need a building. We don't need a sacred place. The only thing we have to do is to close our eyes and just be. And he even says, be silent. Mm. Be silent, and you will hear my voice.
Mm. And that is exactly the need for meditation. What meditation brings is absolutely that connection. And, you know, like as mediums, we act as a channel, effectively speaking, for people that have not developed yet that practice, right? And the other thing is that on the next level, and I see some students of mine, when they start developing and they start connecting to spirit, but still they don't trust, you know, they don't trust those messages, and they question, is that my mind or is it spirit? So this is where a regular practice of with meditation can help us grow spiritually, and it's free. Because you know, and sometimes, you know, it's important as much as prayer, because they are two different coins, right. Two different sides of the same coin, I should say.
Well, I like to tell people, prayer is the acknowledgement of God. When you pray, you acknowledge God's presence. When you pray, you thank God for the things that God does in your life.
Yeah, the gratitude.
Meditation is the two-way communication between you and your own personal universal God mind, or however you want to put it through.
Yes,
God.
yes, yeah.
And that's where the two-way communication comes in. If you need answers to what's going on in your life, don't just pray, sit down and meditate.
Right.
Get answers.
This is what I always say, because meditation is listening and prayer is asking. So, and the two go hand in hand, really.
It's no different than doing your research on Google.
Yes,
you know, you go to Google because you don't have an encyclopedia and all those 38 books sitting in your home. You go to Google to find out an answer to what you're going through, what problems you have. Well, guess what? God is the cloud. All the answers are stored up in the iCloud.
Yes, that's true.
And everything you need is stored right there. Is your faith strong enough, and do you trust enough to know that the answers are at your fingertips? And if you don't trust enough, and if you don't believe enough, what is holding you back? Because it's a blockage. And the only thing that can block you from God is you. Nobody else can block you from God. Nobody else can create a blockage in you. Of course.
I believe that actually falls again into that bracket that we were talking towards the beginning of, clearing the relationship within ourselves with ourselves.
Yes. Do you go around putting yourself down all the time? Well, if you don't believe in yourself, why is God going to believe in you? Why do you expect God to believe in you if you don't believe in you?
So that conscious evolution has to do primarily, really, with to conduct ourselves with an inner cleansing, if I may say so, where we clear, all of that chaos that is being created by the ego, and learning to one of those actions is to make amends, sometimes to others, but mainly with ourselves, because I find that a lot of light workers, as I put it, they tend to be very nurturing, very giving, and sometimes they step over, what they should be doing. They overgive, they overdo it, basically. And as a result, they have a lot to account for in terms of, feeling that, they are more than, like the ego goes out of whack, basically. So they need to come back to themselves and accept their humanness, I suppose. That God can do for them what they cannot do for themselves and for others. So accept to step back, to forgive themselves and start loving themselves. Because a lot of people don't know how to love themselves.
Right. And that's the key right there.
Quite.
It's how to love yourself. Now, the key to the shadow work is to understand that if you went through trauma, if you went through an abusive relationship, you're never going to clear that out of your mind. Mm-hmm. It's always going to be there. It's about looking at it from a different point of view. So you can move past that hurt and pain. That experience will always be there. It will never, ever leave you.
Therefore, you need to learn to live with that by accepting to some extent what has happened, and just to see the lessons that one has to learn, even when it's none of our fault what has happened. Because sometimes a lot of people ask, why me, for instance?
Well, there it goes back to cause and effect. On a metaphysical level, what did I do to bring this into my life? Is what we have to look at. If you're talking energy, the energy we put out there also retracts back.
Sure.
So whatever that energy stuck to, guess what? It's coming back to us. That energy that we gave out, it's coming back to us.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's about learning to spot these red flags before they ever happen.
Very good. Well said. Yes, I agree
You
with you.
want to walk through life being naive and gullible and feel like you get ran over by a semi truck over and over and over again throughout your entire life? Or do you want to look at the fact that I come off as a very needy individual and I need to start showing strength and stand up for my convictions?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so who caused that effect? I did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I caused it. Nobody else caused it to me.
Yeah.
I brought it to me.
Mm-hmm.
On an energy level, that's what takes place. I
Yeah.
bit somebody's head off. Later on down the road, that energy's coming back. Now, how do I take care of that energy before it comes back to me?
Mm-hmm.
I nullify it and sublimate that energy. In other words, I have to recognize that I just put that energy out there, and now I need to correct that energy.
Right.
I understand that I was wrong. I sublimate that energy. Please allow that, what I said, not to hurt or affect the other person. You sublimate that energy so it doesn't come back to you getting that effect from that cause.
Absolutely. So I'm just realizing that we've just hit the hour. And I just wanted to say there is always so much to talk about, but I think that we have touched some very important points in the process of the conscious evolution, and how actually it's not us physically ascending above the clouds, but it's more an inner job, right?
Yes.
It's more to do with us coming back to our higher truth, coming back to our higher selves, reconnecting to God, because eventually, and I would say that we will more and more people are experiencing the reconnection to the Christ consciousness, and working with female divinities such as Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene and so on and so forth, is actually to do with us reconnecting to the feminine energy. I'm not talking about gender, I'm talking about energy, which is within each of us. We all have feminine and masculine divinity within us. And I feel this is what we are really being called forward to do, and to create a more deeper connection, to that sort of divinity, because we are being called to step up and step forward with unconditional love, which is, it's not just an empty word. It's actually above and beyond, our rational almost understanding, because it's something to do more with our own emotions, and that the meaning becomes deeper as we actually work through our issues and we reconnect to our spiritual selves and our soul. Do you want to add anything else to that, Ron?
Yeah, I want to leave everybody with a few words.
Go on.
In this age and time of chaos that we're in right now, sometimes it's very hard for us to see 15, 20 feet in front of us. Like, what's coming next? Where am I going next? And we get caught up in the runaround of this chaotic world. And I need this. I got to have that. I want that. Everything we see on TV, I got to have. but to experience true prosperity in life, prosperity does not come with just one aspect. When you pray for abundance, what you should really be praying for is prosperity. Because in prosperities are all facets of life: family, health, money, love, all of it. Okay? And when you do that, you're not seeking the material things in the outer world. You're seeking those special treasures that can only be put in your heart. And when you carry around a very prosperous heart, you're going to be very prosperous in all aspects of life. And Christ left us with these words: lay not up for yourself treasures of the earth. It's not about the material objects, but seek ye the treasure of the heart, your spiritual needs, the love, the healing. Seek those treasures. These are the things that nobody can take from you. Yes, they may try to destroy you. Yes, they may try to humiliate you over your beliefs, but they can never take it away from you. So if somebody steals your car, it's not, oh, they stole my car, I'm not going to make it, I'm not going. Yes, you are, because another car is going to come in, because God knows what you need. But what we all need right now is that healing that takes deep, deep, deep within our hearts. Because we are carrying around a lot of anger from COVID. We are carrying around a lot of anger from inflation. We are carrying around a lot of anger because of the high food prices, the high gas prices, all this stuff going on in our world. Don't put your focus on it. Put your focus on how you can make that heart of yours inside your chest grow bigger and bigger and bigger. Seek ye not the material things of this earth, but seek the true treasures of the heart. These are the things that no one can steal.
Wonderful, wonderful words. And I know that all of us can take every single sentence and agree with that. And beautiful words. Beautiful words. Thank you so much, Ron. I'm sure we will see you again sometime in the new year, back again to have more of a chat. If you are happy to come back, I'd love to have you on again. And it's been a long time since we spoke about getting together and do a bit of a chat in the podcast or whatever. So this is probably a start and an opportunity to, to work with each other, a bit more regularly. Thank you so much for coming along. I appreciate your time, and thank you for everyone that have come and listened to our conversation and podcast on the conscious evolution. And one more question, Ron. How can mediums help in this process to people, day-to-day people that they want to come closer? How can we help them in a process
of coming closer to spirit?
Yes.
Stop being afraid to talking to people about your true gifts. Are you ashamed of your gift as a medium? Talk about it. I'm not ashamed of it. I talk to everybody that I'm a medium, and therefore it opens the door for them to come to me without putting pressure on them.
That's a fundamental point. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So just the announcement for next week, we will have Sandra Ferreira from California. She's a minister, medium, artist, musician, and psychologist, and she considers herself a scientist. So we will be looking at spirituality versus science, and how can the two live together, and what effect this can have when used together on people that come across one of us in a day-to-day life offering services to public other than spiritualism in its pure meaning. Thank you so much again. Thank you, Ron, and I'll talk to you soon, I'm sure. Thank you, Stephen, for coming, and everybody else. Thank you.
I look forward to talking with you again soon. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you so much. Take care.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night. Good night.